What's happened there? Welcome to the Celtic Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10 Twitter handle, as you can see, and I am joined today by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW Twitter handle.
Tony, yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. Now, you're in the company of Zig and Zag today, so here we go. And we will move on, Sean, from Sunday and say Celtic now have a chance to atone for Sunday tomorrow night against St Mirren. But they might not have it all their own way against St Mirren. St Mirren are doing actually all right at the moment, aren't they?
They are, aye. I mean, they've almost just had a run halted themselves. I mean, Celtic's run technically still going because it's unbeaten, but it was obviously the first drop point since they played St Mirren back before Christmas and domestically anyway. But St Mirren, since they've come back for the winter break, I think it's played 8. But sorry, before the weekend's loss to Hearts, it was played 8, 1-6, drawn 2. All right, 2 of those were against lower league opposition in the cup, but still, team that's full of confidence. They've also lost their manager, remember?
Yep.
Jim Goodwin's away to Aberdeen, and then that precipitated them losing their first game of 2022. So you don't know what kind of response they're going to have. That is the first time this calendar year that they've tasted defeat. So it might be that they're the ones looking for a response just as much as Celtic.
But for Celtic, it's all about getting back to winning ways, Sean. What do you think needs to improve from Sunday? A goal, as Dan said.
It's that old Johan Cruyff one, as long as you score one more than the opposition. But it is all about the 3 points. We kind of touched on that yesterday, but I do want to see a performance. I think they need a performance for their own good as much as the fans.
Yep.
I was expecting that on Sunday, given the amount of rotation and for the Bodo Glimt second leg, how well rested most of the first 11 would be for Sunday's game, and I don't think you got it on Sunday. I don't think the performance was there, despite what Ange maybe implied to you after the game. I think I'm wanting to see it now on Wednesday against a team that, remember, did for Hibs obviously did take points off them.
Yes, indeed. Rotation, Sean, where do we stand on that? Are you at the end of your tether with rotation, or do you understand the need for it? Or I was saying the point in the kind of 3 key issues. I was saying that maybe not need to rotate too much, just try and get a settled 11 in his mind and go with that between now and the end of the season, injuries apart. Try and just sort of settle on a settled team.
Well, apart from when I'm in a pub, I believe in everything in moderation, Tony. So it's rotation. It's part and parcel of the modern game. You can't, especially with Celtic, you can't have a big squad and not rotate.
Yeah.
It should be a benefit for the bigger teams like Celtic, especially with 5 subs now. Which again, not to beat a dead horse, but is why it was even more baffling. I only used 1 sub against Hibs on Sunday, but. No, rotation I've no problem with it at all. I think it can benefit the bigger teams, and Celtic should be using it to their advantage. Obviously, you come up against things like injuries. Giakoumakis couldn't make it because of illness, as far as I'm aware, on Sunday. You can't legislate for that kind of thing. But I just meant the rotation in terms of how much he rotated for that Bodo Glimt game, and then get into the Hibs game, which to me would have suggested the Hibs game was full strength, which I think it probably was from the players available. But unfortunately, the performance wasn't there. I agree with you. I think now that there's fewer competitions to concentrate on, you should probably see less rotation as well. And with that, and as I said yesterday, if there is slightly less rotation, then you would imagine that consistency of selection would bring a better quality of performance with it as well. So
I was just thinking that for the continuity, I think would help. And the players understand, because the players all understand the system now. They know what they're doing. So it's just finding that 11 that can, for the next 10 games, if you can get a consistency of selection, then I think that would bode well. David Bradley, we need a good performance to get the confidence back. Hoping for a comfortable win at home with some early goals. Sean Kern. We touched upon that yesterday, and Alison mentioned a point, Sean, about the early goal, that if Celtic don't seem to get an early goal in games, they kind of struggle. Do you agree with that it's been a toil at times if Celtic don't score early?
We've been saying that all season. I mean, it's become it's a running theme. Frank says it every time I look at the comments. Basically, they need that early goal, and he's not wrong. It is a feature of Celtic's better performances that they score early. I'd put it that way. I remember I'd done a piece just before Christmas looking at the timings of their goals, and there was certainly, like, not to go all COVID on it, but it was first wave and second wave. There was a middle and a middle period in there where there was a wee bit of a lull, but they start well and they tended to end well as well, and I think that's probably still the case at this point. But an early goal always helps with Celtic. You know what it's like. Most teams will sit in, and if they don't concede, Celtic start getting antsy the longer that they don't score, that kind of thing. But if Celtic score early, then they've no alternative but to come out and try and score, and that leaves gaps that teams of the quality of Celtic can exploit.
Speaking of scorers, Georgios Giakoumakis missed Sunday through illness. Ange fully expects him back for Wednesday. Do you expect him to make a big difference, Sean?
I think he could make a big difference. I mean, we've got a piece up on the site this morning, Ross Goodwin, Boys Analytics, comparing Giakoumakis and Kyogo, just in terms of, do you remember I pointed out to you and Alison that although he's a big guy, it doesn't necessarily mean he's got to have the ball floated into him, that kind of thing, like he likes it flashed across the box, that kind of thing. And Ross is making the point that in a lot of ways, the box work and where they take their shots from is quite similar between Kyogo and Giakoumakis. Now, obviously, what Kyogo brings in terms of link-up play and stuff, Giakoumakis just doesn't bring it. He's good at holding it up. He's good at he's got a good work rate and stuff. But in terms of the other things that Kyogo brings, he doesn't necessarily bring that. But he does have that similarity in terms of give him the chance in the box and flash it across and give him it close to goal, and he'll probably get it on target if not score. So in that sense, I think he will make a difference. I think Maeda, the work rate is there off the ball. I think there's different perceptions on the quality that he's got in front of goal so far. But I've not got a massive gripe with Maeda's performances so far, all things considered. But I would quite like to see Giakoumakis back leading the line, aye.
Yeah, I mean, because on Sunday, Abada's one into the side netting, and the one that Matt Macy jabbed the foot out at from Abada's shot, that was about it, wasn't it? In terms of clear-cut goal-scoring chances that Celtic created on Sunday.
Aye, I mean, Abada and Jota both had 4 shots each, but Jota's shots were more like outside the box, acute angles, blasting it over the bar, that kind of thing. Abada did get himself into decent positions. Arguably should have scored at least one of them, but those aside, I mean, it was missing almost a Giakoumakis or Kyogo-shaped player to come in there, because you can see when they're playing, just by looking at the shot maps, the locations of where the shots are taken from, the two of them like to be the 6 yard width of the post, that kind of thing, central in the box at the very least. And you could see that wasn't the case on Sunday. They were spread all the way over the corners of the box and out with the box and stuff. It was grim reading.
David Bradley comes in and says Giakoumakis has to do the damage now, with him opening his mouth. Do you agree with that, Sean? That was just the mark of a confident player, wasn't it? But I'm a believer in you keep those things in house. But this is your stage now. If you get the stage back, then you have to take it.
Hey, listen, he said it, so he has got to back it up. Aye, but I mean, when we had a discussion about it the day after, Tony, you obviously made your point there. That is what you said at the time. I says I didn't mind it. Mostly because I think he was being truthful. I think he was being accurate. I think it was his genuine opinion. But David's right. If you do say something like that, it's always going to be used until you've actually physically backed it up. Then you know it's going to be used against you. So
now, in terms of the midfield on Sunday, Sean, we spoke about that yesterday. Do you expect changes there in the midfield from the manager for Wednesday?
I think so. I quite like to see O'Reilly come in. I think he done well enough when he came on for Rogic. I mean, he was the only sub used, but I think he did do well when he came on. He made an improvement. All right, they never won the game, but I think he played a couple of really good incisive passes. I think he linked up better in that kind of right half space with Juranovic and Abada. I think O'Reilly should come back in for Rogic. I'm not sure if I would bother changing Hatate out, because I do think that he was maybe a wee bit unfairly maligned. I think he was gassed by the end of it and should have been subbed off, but I think he actually played largely all right for the rest of the game. I suppose it depends whether you think McGregor should move one further forward or whether you're happy with him sitting. Tony, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I like Hatate's energy, but I don't know. It was missing on Sunday, wasn't it? I felt, and I thought McGregor was slightly off it for his high standards, and it was noticeable when O'Reilly came on. They got better, but not much better.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Rogic was just not at it, was he really? And I read comments yesterday that Pat Bonner was saying, that he reckons he's lost his edge since he come back from international duty. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I just think he's gone off the boil, hasn't he? Basically, So
but this is where having a deeper squad should benefit you. This is where the rotation should come into it for these kind of things, because it's O'Reilly sitting there. I would rather not play O'Reilly and Rogic. I think you could probably get away with it in the league actually more than you could in Europe, certainly. But the way I see it, it's probably one or the other most games. So if Rogic is going through a lull, which I think most people would agree that he is, you either need to double down and let him try and play through it, or you use your squad and put O'Reilly in there. Now, I think O'Reilly's done well enough that you could justify putting him in there, even though Rogic has been enjoying a good season, that kind of thing. Now, St Mirren, bigger part, all that kind of thing. It is where Rogic would probably come up with a good game as well. But on the balance of probability, I think he would bring back in O'Reilly. I think he will actually, for what it's worth. I think he'll keep McGregor sitting with Hatate and then O'Reilly. I don't think he'll switch two of them out.
That's my thoughts too, because I thought O'Reilly did make a slight difference on Sunday, and Celtic did create a couple of chances when he was on the park. But they need more than that, don't they, Sean, if they're going to win this game?
No, I agree. I think Steve makes a good point here. The speed and accuracy of the passing, that was something I touched on in the kind of data report that went up yesterday, that although it was still 83% of the passes that they completed, but I would have argued that it was what Steve said there. It was the intent in the passes, the kind of lack of risk in some of the passes, the speed that they were turning around to play them with, that kind of thing that was glaringly obvious. That was why they're kind of struggling more than anything else for me.
Well, they'd won defence splitter in the first half, wasn't it, when Jota put Abada in at the angle? He hit the side netting. That was the one probing pass that split the Hibs defence, and I didn't see many other passes or similar passes throughout the game.
You had after O'Reilly came on, he played a good one through for Abada, not to go through on goal, but to put it across and stuff. It didn't come in, but and later on, it wasn't so much an incisive pass; it was a cross. But Greg Taylor crossing for Abada as well. As I say, Abada's shots were the main one just in Sunday. But no, I do. That's why I put Steve's comment up. I agree with that. I think that had a lot to answer for, was the speed of the play as much as anything else.
And Anne said after they felt that Celtic did all the right things, Sean, that they still continued to, they were a dominant team and they continued to play their football. I told them that I disagreed with that, and there was a lack of spark and a lack of cohesion and a lack of fluidity. Do you see that being a problem? Because we've noticed it in the past few games that there's something missing, isn't there, at the minute?
I don't. As I said yesterday, I think it's a small rough patch, but it's still just a rough patch. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a bigger issue. I think they will be able to play themselves out it. I'd argue it's definitely. I've not even argued. It's definitely not as bad a rough patch as it was earlier in the season. Before that Aberdeen game that we always talk about, that kind of sparked this run and stuff. It's night and day between that kind of thing. But don't get me wrong. We're here to focus on Celtic, but I think it is a hard game, even though it's at Parkhead tomorrow. I think St Mirren are a team, as I said at the start of the show, they are a confident team. They'll be missing Conor Ronan, which is a blow for them. He's been big for them, but on the whole, that Hearts defeat aside, they've been really good since the start of the year, and they will be fancying it. I think they'll be fancying, all right, as David, I think, will probably have said already in the comments, they'll be fancying sitting, doing low blocks, but they'll still be fancying to do something against Celtic that are slightly off colour.
Sean, they're all hard games. There's 10 games to go. It's either there's a pressure there now, a relentless pressure that these guys might not have faced. A lot of them might not have faced in their careers. Because as I said yesterday, this is a relatively, mostly new Celtic team. And Tom Rogic was saying that they're used to this position. Callum McGregor and Tom Rogic are used to this position. The club is. But this group of players, as a collective, aren't used to it. So that I can't deny. Well, we can't deny that they're playing with all sorts of added pressures, and I get all that. But this is why you play football. This is where you want to be involved at this stage of the season. So you now have to get your head around it. That for the next 10 games, it's going to be a slog. You're going to have to dig deep, and you're going to have to dig yourself out of trouble if you want to win the title, and find a way, unlike on Sunday, to win games when it's tight like that.
No, I agree with you. I think, and you're right to point out that it is really only McGregor and Rogic. You could argue Hart.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's an inexperienced kind of team in terms of winning. But there's only one way you get used to that, and that is to start winning. That's the thing. That's to rise to the challenge. And I think they can. I think they've almost, as I said yesterday, they've done the kind of, not the hardest part. The hardest part is getting over the line, but they've done a massive part of it in terms of overturning the gap that was at the top. And the mentality shift, despite what they say, that there must be a difference between being chased as opposed to doing the chasing. So that's the kind of thing you're touching on there, and I agree with you. I think it is just a case of getting used to it, a case of plugging away. In a way, it almost comes back to what Ange's been saying himself, running your own race. It's very much that now for Celtic. They don't even need to bother looking at the table as long as they keep winning.
Correct. I mean, that 9-point swing should give them every confidence that they can go on and lift the title, Sean. Because as you say there, they did the hard part, but it can't stop. As Andy's fond of saying, can't stop, we won't stop. So as you say, just run your own race, do your own thing, and if you continue to win football matches, you will win the title because you won't be caught.
That's exactly it. It is literally, that is it. I thought I'd put up David's comment there because I knew it would be coming, and it's right. They will try and keep it tight. That is what they'll do. It's harder to do it at Parkhead than it is at St Mirren Park. And you've got to remember the last time when it's been chalk and cheesy 2 games against St Mirren. At Parkhead it was 6-0, and then at St Mirren Park it was 0-0. And that 0-0, as I said, was the last time before Sunday that they dropped points properly in domestic football. But do you remember the context from before that game? I mean, it was team selections issues galore, and don't get me wrong, the lineup I would argue was still strong enough to win. But it wasn't ideal. I think you had Bain in goal, Scales at left back. I think your front three was Johnston, Moffat and Abada. Off the bench, 2 full-backs and a centre mid making his debut. Like, none of that screams ideal. They still should have won it, I would argue, but none of that screams ideal. It's going to be totally different on Wednesday. For me, he'll have a stronger starting 11 for one, but he'll also have a stronger bench. That said, as I keep going on about, he didn't utilise his subs against Hibs. But regardless, the point is there to be made that enough has changed since that draw in Paisley that it's almost irrelevant that they drew 0-0 with him earlier in the season.
This is a pointless question, Sean, but I'll ask it anyway because the manager thinks it's pointless. Plan B.
You know where I stand on that. His plan B is using his bench to do plan A better.
Which he didn't do on Sunday.
Exactly, which is why I'm still sitting baffled on Tuesday.
I mean, a lot of supporters are screaming out that we need a plan B, we need this, we need that. He's steadfast. He is dogmatic. He will do plan A until, I don't know, but he believes that's the way to go. So that's him. You can't dispute his judgment or his thinking on that because so far it's worked to a degree.
I'm putting up this comment. I wouldn't call rotating half his team a plan B, to be honest. I still think he wanted them to play that same way. I just don't think they've done it well enough. And I think the other team had their number. I think that's different from having a plan B, that kind of thing. I've said it often enough this season. His plan A is literally the plan, and he almost sees it as like a test to be passed, like, especially in Europe, which is why I was saying it would have disappointed them, the manner of the way that they played against Bodo Glimt arguably more than the result, was that his tactics and his philosophy isn't ingrained enough or have the quality of players enough yet to impose that style on a team that was just as well drilled and had an identity.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But yeah, I mean, I still think that.
Sorry, I'll respond to that. I mean, he did, but it's not 4-3-3 that's his plan A. His plan A is the way that he wants them to play, not the system. He played 3 at the back at St Johnston before Christmas, before New Year as well, remember? And I think I pointed out on the site when we were talking about 3 at the back. He played that for Australia. It's not necessarily the shape, it's more the way that he wants them to play within the shape that he puts out, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I would argue that even though he did, and you're right, he did change the shape to 4-4-2, he still wanted them to play in a certain way, and I just don't think they've done it well enough, really, more than anything else.
Well, he They play St Mirren tomorrow night, Sean. Tomorrow night. Yes, tomorrow night. It will all come out in the wash. It's 10 to go. The Celtic fans will be on tenterhooks for the next 10 games and more because the Scottish Cup too. But they're still on it.
Do you want a wee crumb of comfort, a wee positive
Go on then, Sean.
before we take us off?
Go on.
I had a wee look at Stephen Robinson, obviously the new St Mirren manager. Right? Mm-hmm. According to Transfer Market, he's played Celtic 13 times since he became a manager. Not to jinx it, touch wood, but he's drawn 3 and lost 10 of those 13 games.
Well, you heard it here first, guys. Sean's jinxed it. You know what's going to happen now. And if he does, we'll shout at Sean on Thursday. But there you go. Celtic St Mirren Wednesday night against a manager who's played 13 times, not won one. I think we can say that's a fairly positive thing to take into that game, Sean. Just hoping that Stephen Robinson win column remains at 0 after Wednesday night. Thanks for your contributions, guys. We always enjoy it. Thanks, Sean, for your contribution. Always good stuff. And have a good day, guys. And as you can see at the bottom of the screen, if you subscribe to the Celtic Way channel, it costs £1 for 2 months. And also, if you subscribe to TikTok, you might have seen a new face on TikTok yesterday. Totally out my comfort zone, but there we are. My big ugly mug will be appearing on TikTok every day now, I think, for the foreseeable future. I just saw that there, 14 in a row. Well, you've got to leave them with something positive, Sean. Leave them come back for more.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a brilliant day. Take care.
Cheers, Tory. Cheers, guys.